right. So I think right off the bat, like your idea was a good one of just giving everyone a quick update on what we're doing right now, because it's been a little while since we posted anything. So I'll try to remember stuff. And if I miss anything, if you want to jump in, you can as well. But we finally got the playing shows thing rolling. And so we've got quite a few shows in 2024. We're playing like once a month, once every 2 months, something like that. So we're getting right up to where our target is. We play in Bowling Green a lot, but we're starting to branch out to Toledo and Pierre's hopefully here soon in Indiana. So that's pretty cool. And then while we're doing that, we are in the process of recording new music. So especially with you joining the band, and we'll talk more about that in this whole conversation, but like we found on our last song, Foresight, that's kind of the genre that we want to go with, because we kind of popped around at all of our different songs. So now we're in the process of like just cranking out more recordings and getting that whole process going. And I don't know, this band is very much like a steam engine. It takes a little bit, but we're finally starting to get things rolling.
That's right. We move slow, but we're hopefully now we're steady.
Yeah, exactly.
Steady, constant progress, which is great.
Is there anything else that I'm forgetting about?
We're working on a lot of things right now. We are ramping up live shows this summer. We've got a busy April and May. So it's going to be a fun summer. And it's going to be even more fun because there's this new guy on the block that is bringing something new, I guess, to the band. And I'm very excited about it. I've spent the last 2 months getting up to speed on the current material, on the existing songs. So that's been keeping me busy, but it's been a lot of fun. And I've also enjoyed putting my own little bit of flair on all of them. So I was actually working on that earlier today. Speaking of foresight, that was we mentioned we talked a little bit back before. I think that's my favorite song that you guys have already. So it's very fitting that I thought that was a good sign that is the song that you guys feel like that's the sound that Monsters wants to sort of head towards. Yeah. In the future. So, and I'm excited to hear that, because that's my favorite song. And the song that we're working on right now, Blood is Overrated, is the most like that one of any of the other songs. Yeah. It's funny because when you joined, you brought with you a whole bunch of ideas, and you've shown us a lot of like your demos and stuff that you've created. And we're all really excited because it definitely fits that genre. But it's like we had 3 songs that were kind of in the pipeline already. Blood is Overrated, and then The Hole, and then The Victim, or whatever. And so now we're just kind of like anxiously like, okay, let's get these done. Like, we know we want to do the songs because the message that they have is something that we really need to speak, especially from Aaron. I know his heart, he really wants to get that message out, but it's almost like get these done so we can start digging into your material, because that's going to be really fun. So that's right. And I think what we're calling The Whole, or I think we've changed the title to Obituary or My Obituary. We'll see what the final title ends up being. That song, at least from a guitar or musical perspective, I think is maybe the most interesting one we've had yet. That's going to be a lot of work for me. I've learned it. I've internalized all the parts that Vince already wrote, and I've started adding my own, and it's going to be a fun one. I'm really excited for people to hear this one. It's I think our most technical piece yet, and it's got this almost like neoclassical sound to it. I guess at least from a guitar perspective. Really excited for people to hear this one. I'm really excited to see how it takes shape in the studio. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And we actually, the podcast episode that came out right before this one, it's been on YouTube for a while, but I just posted it to like the actual podcast platforms. But it is, Aaron and I sat down and talked about the lyrics and kind of like what we're trying to get across in that song. So it was kind of cool. There's a whole episode dedicated to like, what's the messaging that we're trying to get across here. Right. Yeah. And even besides the music, the lyrical theme is very meaningful, very deep. I'm excited. I'm really excited for this one. All right. So that's what we're up to. So let's dive into this episode. So this episode is the final piece of the episodes that we've done so far. So we tried to do one episode per band member with the goal of being kind of giving a background of like what each member, what their influences are, kind of where they started with music. It's just like a brief biographical type thing. And it was funny because we finished the 4th episode and we're like, okay, we're done. And now Joe joined. So we get to do a 5th one and I'm excited. Hey. So
let's start with, I guess, just introduce yourself to people for now, and then I'll start asking questions about like where music started for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Joe Blackburn. I'm from the Toledo, Ohio area, born and raised, live in Temperance, Michigan. Been playing guitar for about 16 years now. Met Aaron through a really weird chance meeting. And one thing led to another, and now we're here. And I guess we'll go into that here. We can dive into that story a little bit more and later in the episode. But yeah, it was a very natural process.
Yeah,
you know, at least I felt that way.
Maybe let's talk about that now. I mean, you just joined the band, so what's the story like? I mean, it's funny. It's always Aaron Collins. Like, as much as everyone's like, man, you got to tolerate that guy. He just has a gift. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, he is. He's great. So I was at, turns out, a mutual friend of Aaron and I's kid's birthday party back in late September 2023. And not even actually, I wasn't even currently playing any type of heavy music or metal, even at home on my own. I'd taken about a year off, and I started a sort of acoustic covers project. My friend and I did last year. We started playing out at patios and restaurants and everything, having a lot of fun with it. It was a new style of music for me, and I was really enjoying it. And it was just a totally different direction than any of the other musical projects that I've been involved with in the past. And I kind of was thinking, you know, it's been a while since I've played any sort of heavier rock or metal, and maybe that just isn't, you know, something that is supposed to be a part of my life right now. And I go to this kid's birthday party, and my friend Kyle is introducing me to this guy, Aaron. And he's like, yeah, Joe, here, Aaron has a metal band. Hey, Aaron, Joe, you know, Joe plays guitar, Joe likes metal. And so we just started talking, and he was telling me about the band and how it was a little bit different than most bands, as in you guys all have families and careers, and the band's just the frosting or the icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. It's just a hobby. It's something we do for fun. It's something we all love and are passionate about, but our families and our jobs and the other parts of our lives come first. So it's just, you know, the icing on the cake. And that topic or that concept is really what piqued my interest. And then he brings up, hey, we're looking for a guitar player. And I was like, oh boy. And at first I was like, there's no way I have time for this. There's no way that this is going to go anywhere. And then he told me the name of the band and kind of the style of music, and then a little bit about you guys and how you guys operate and just sort of the different influences you guys bring. And so after that, I was definitely interested in at least checking it out. Right. So I went home. I listened to all of the songs. Really liked them. But I needed to stew on it, I guess, for a couple months. So Aaron gave me a little bit of heat for it when I finally texted him. I think this was like late September, and I believe I texted him like December 1st or something like that. The whole like couple months went by. Busy season of work for me. Just I needed some time to stew on it. Mm-hmm. But once I got through that, I was like, yeah, I want to be a part of this, at least if they'll have me, at least I got to explore it. I can't just let this opportunity pass me by. Mm-hmm. So, texted him, and he was like, man, that took you forever, but yeah, why don't you submit an audition video. So I threw that together. I learned Becoming a Monster, submitted some videos to you guys, mm-hmm. and got invited to a practice in late December. And the rest is history. Here we are. It
was kismet, man. Like when you sent your audition thing, I think everyone's expectations were really low, because we've gone through members and had people join and that sort of thing in the past. And it's always been, especially from Vince's perspective, Vince has always had to handhold everybody. Even in previous bands, like before this, he's talked about how there's been some guys that's like, he has to make tutorial videos for, and there's just all this. And so we had our expectations low. We're like, well, if you can play Becoming a Monster, then we'll see. And then you just easily did it. You're like, oh, and I can also do this. And it was really cool. So for us, it was a no brainer, but I liked that you had to think about it for a while, because, as adults, we can't make decisions that quickly, that impulsively, especially when they're decisions that impact your family, your wife and kids. Like, so that was, Aaron mentioned it to me too. Like when he responded, he's like, well, it took him long enough to respond. I'm like, well, I mean, he might be thinking about it, listening to the music and really deciding, because most people's perspective is like, if you join a band, you're practicing every week, maybe twice a week, you're playing shows every other week. Like it's a huge commitment. So yeah, it's something Vince and I talked about too. Actually, probably 6 months before you joined, we had talked about me switching to guitar, because I played bass just because we needed a bass player and it makes it easier for me to sing, but guitar is what I've always done. And so we had talked about that. And I remember Vince saying, don't decide now, think about it, give it time. And I'm glad that I did, because I messed with it a little bit and I found, I'm happier on bass. And so it just seems like really thinking things through and making slow decisions is just how we have to do things as adults. So
Definitely. And if I could just add to the my sort of thinking process, the fact that you guys had, first of all, I guess, decent recordings for your music made it a lot easier for me to take in the songs. You guys had good production quality, so they were. I had I feel like a good picture of what the songs really were, and you guys had all the podcast material, which I listened through all of it. During those interim months. And so I feel like I got to know you guys a little bit as people up front, and you guys had no freaking clue who I was at the time, but I feel like I knew a little bit about who you guys were. So I felt at the time that I texted Aaron back, I was like, I feel like I know exactly what I'm getting, at least mostly what I'm getting into and who these people are. And you guys are like, yeah, we have no idea who this guy is. So, that I had a huge advantage there, and that was because you guys had some great content out there for me to, have access to.
That's so cool. I never considered that being like a positive of the podcast, is like, hey, we could find our last member through this to like give a background. So
well, you did.
That's awesome.
You did. Yeah. Byproduct.
All right. So, like in the other episodes, let's go back. So like when was it for you? Like, if you can remember, when was it that music first grabbed you? Like, did you always did you have a lot of music in your family and just listen to it a lot? Or like, was there just a moment that you remember like it grabbing you?
Yeah. So I can't say that there's a specific moment or anything where music really grabbed me. But there was always music in the house growing up. So my mom is not particularly great at any one instrument, but she played a lot of different instruments. So that we had a piano in the house growing up. That's mainly what she played. And that's probably what she's best at. There was an acoustic guitar in the closet. I don't think I actually ever saw her play that one time, but there was an old acoustic guitar in the closet, and I knew it was there. And every once in a while I would get it out and just pluck on it. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I was in elementary school at the time.
Right.
And she had flutes and, flute, recorder, clarinet, trombone, trumpet, a lot of different band instruments. She played band in school growing up. So there was always instruments and music in the house. So that was cool. And there was music playing. So my parents were into this is the 90s, early mid to late 90s. So a lot of contemporary Christian music. I grew up in church, that my faith's probably, it's the most important part of my life. And that's still something that I am very grounded in and spend a lot of time on today. I'm the worship music director at my church. And that's something I still is a part of me. And I don't think I'll ever get away from intentionally. Right. I think it's something that I have to keep doing for the rest of my life, because this is part of my story we'll get to later, but through church was how I got actively involved in playing live music. So we'll get there. But so growing up in the house, there was always music around, and
Can I jump in real quick? So
yeah,
after you joined, I found out that we're the same age. And so you,
I'm actually the baby. You're a little bit older. So I'm the new kid on the block, and I'm also the baby.
So we both grew up in houses with contemporary Christian musicians. So you're going to know a lot of artists that I know that nobody else knows. So Michael W. Smith.
Yep. Stephen Curtis Chapman. Yep. We're on the same. Chris Rice was another one. Yep.
Newsboys was big in our household back then too, with the original lead singer. And there was a couple of female singers as well, but my dad is quite Southern, and so we used to listen to this guy named Carmen. Did you ever listen to him?
My mom was a fan of him. Yeah.
Yeah. He had like cassette tapes and everything, and he was kind of like a Christian.
DC Talk. DC Talk.
Yeah.
That was okay. So here we go. That was the first like band that really made me like, all right, this is cool. Like this is yeah, it's Christian music, but it's also like rock, and I like it. Like it's accessible. It speaks to me.
Yeah.
Jesus DC Freak. Talk. Yep. Jesus Freak. That's exactly the song that really like hit it off to me. That was like, this is like a heavy guitar song. Like I like this. And I didn't even play guitar at the time. I actually played piano at the time. My mom started me in piano lessons when I was in like 3rd grade. I played for like 7 years. I was never that good. But it got me started with music, and I could understand how music worked. So a little bit of theory, a little bit of just how music works.
Yeah.
And that made my transition to guitar a lot easier when I got there when I was 16 years old. But yeah, so music, I didn't really touch a guitar until I was like 15 years old. But I was, exposed to music and things like that. And my dad likes like classic rock and stuff like that. Prog rock, actually. Rush is his favorite band. So I grew up with that a little bit, in addition to the CCM. So, found like DC Talk and Newsboys and stuff like that. And I had a bunch of friends at the time that all listened to that type of stuff. We all grew up in very similar households and settings, went to the same church, things like that. So, and eventually we found like Pillar and Skillet, and POD, and oh man, POD, like that's Skillet, POD, Pillar. Trying to think of some other like heavier bands.
And you're talking, okay, I gotta qualify this because kids at school listen to Skillet now. I'm a teacher, so I got kids at school.
No,
and
Skillet used to be kind of heavy.
There you go. Industrial Skillet. We're talking Collide and Alien Youth.
Yes. Collide's the best album. I don't care. Comatose is good, but no, Collide is their best album.
I feel so understood right now. This is amazing.
Yes. Alien Youth. Yep. Industrial Skillet. And looking back, it didn't age very well, but Collide still stands on its own. So it's freaking awesome. Yeah, POD too. Also the rap rock, like new metal, Christian new metal type of thing. Like there was a band called TFK, early TFK, PAX 217. Yep. I don't know if you remember that name. Yep. All that stuff. POD was very much that when they in their earlier stuff. Loved that rap rock stuff. I'm not much into hip hop or rap now at all, actually. But back then, I liked the aggressive guitar coupled with like the rap and aggressive vocals. Yeah. So there wasn't really much screaming. I wasn't into like any screaming music back then. But the like rap aggressiveness coupled with the heavy guitars was like magic.
Do you know what your first screaming band was? Like, what was the band that first pulled you into the screaming vocals?
Yeah. So POD did a little bit. So on their album Satellite, which came out on September 11th, 2020 or 2001. So weird, 2001. It was the big day. It came out that day. So they had some screaming on that album, and I didn't really like it that much, but it was amongst all of the other great stuff that I loved. So I just accepted it, and sort of it was just there. Mm-hmm. So fast forward a few years, I started getting more into like the modern like radio rock stuff. Like I'd hear bands like 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin, one of my favorites. Love them. And then this band. So part of the reason why I feel like I was destined to sort of play guitar because all these different things started popping up in my life that were leading me towards rock music and guitar. And one of those things was, it sounds so stupid and like stereotypical now, but like Guitar Hero. So a friend of mine got Guitar Hero for PS2. So we started playing that. So I was learning all these popular songs that were, huge and that I probably should have known anyways at that time. But that was my first time discovering all these songs. And that was great. Yeah. Guitar Hero, man. It did wonders for me. And then Guitar Hero 2 came out. And on Guitar Hero 2, I don't know if you remember this, if you're a nerd like me, but there was a bonus track and there was one very hard song there that was freaking awesome. And it blew my mind. It's a song called 6 by All That Remains. Yep. Okay. So that song has a bunch of screaming on it. And it has I still think is some of like the best metal guitar, like modern metal guitar playing that you can really find. But that song on that game blew my freaking mind. I was like, this is like, yes, it's busy and it's crazy, but it's amazing. And I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know how to how I would get that sound or anything like that. But that's awesome, especially the instrumental section in the middle. You could almost say it's almost like got elements of like Spanish music and like smooth jazz. I don't know. It's really weird. But it's amazing. And then they like pick up the dynamics and make it heavier, do the same melody, but heavier. It's so awesome. Killer guitar solo. So that was my first, I guess, introduction into screaming and into like more technical guitar.
Gotcha.
So, and I was like, that is the type of thing I want to do. So like the heavy, simple, power chords and drop C, like the new metal bands were doing, that was awesome. I'll do that all day. Even still love that stuff. But the like more technical metal core modern metal sound, that's where it started for me, was like Guitar Hero 2.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And then fast forward another like year or two, I started hanging out with this other guy who was actually let me change gears a little bit. So I started playing guitar in I think I was 16 years old. Started taking lessons, just had an acoustic guitar. My parents didn't buy me my own guitar yet. I just used this old from like the 60s acoustic guitar that my mom had in the closet, and the action on it was terrible.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was so bad. I look back and I think they still have it. And I picked it up a few years ago and I was like, man, this really was bad. This wasn't just my noob teenager self that didn't have very strong fingers yet. No, it was just, it was bad.
Yeah.
So anyways, but that's where I got my start, was just on an acoustic guitar. And I obviously loved it and stuck with it through the entire fall and into the Christmas season. And I kept bugging my parents, I want an electric guitar. I need an electric guitar. That's all I want. So they got me a Squier Strat, and that was my first guitar, with a little Fender amp for Christmas that year. And that was where I got my start on electric guitar, and I just never looked back. It just consumed me for the next at least 2 years. That's like all I did outside of like school and other stuff that I like had to do was play guitar, listen to music, and play guitar and try to learn more songs and get better on guitar. And throughout that period, our youth group was sort of had like a shift in like the culture and their ministries and programs and things like that. And they put together a new band. So part of that was I was asked to play guitar, and I literally had this guitar for like a month. So I just figured it out. I just trial by fire. I was not comfortable. I was not good by any stretch of the imagination, especially like playing chords off sheet music with a band in time. Completely new thing for me. So that took some learning and some time to figure out. But that's how I got my start playing guitar in a band in front of people. I like literally got an electric guitar and started playing music on stage in front of people like within a month. It was kind of crazy, actually. But I got more and more comfortable, and I got better as I practiced. And one thing led to another, and I just started playing. I actually ended up playing with that band and with those same people for the next 2 years. It was through the rest of my high school time in high school, and really great friendships. I'm still really, really good friends with a few people from that band. And then I started playing up front for big church, big adult church. So they had me up there, and I played like every Sunday for the 5 years. I ended up leaving that church and going to my current church, and tried to take some time off. But the worship leader there at the time was a friend from the old church that I played with in a different band later on. And he was like, Joe's here. You want to play guitar? We need an electric guitarist. And I was like, look, man, I'm just trying to take a few months off. I'm kind of burnt out on this. I'm just trying to make sure that like I'm doing this for the right reasons. But that only lasted a couple months. And before I knew it, I was up there again playing guitar every week. So, and I'm still there today. I'm actually the music director. So, church music at church, worship music has always been a piece of my musical, I guess, self. Even though I love to play like rock and metal and stuff at home, I hit the stage every single Sunday and play worship music. And it's just a part of me. And it hopefully.
Yeah, it was similar for me. I very rarely played on the adult side for like the big service, unless I was playing like bass or whatever, because it was so contemporary. But on the youth side, they were more, like most of the members of our youth praise and worship team were in a punk band called Metro Punk, and it's like old school punk, like MXPX, but like more like really raw MXPX. And I looked up to those guys. Like those were like, I looked at those guys and said, I want to do that, but I don't want to be so raw punk. I want to do pop punk and that sort of thing. But, I realized when I think back, me playing on the praise and worship team on the youth side, the songs that we would do at our church tended to be more sad, and honestly the right word for it is emo. Like a lot of our praise and worship songs were very emo. We used to sing songs by a band called Leland, who I still love. Leland, that guy's voice, man. But they're very like Carried to the Table and Beautiful Lord and all these songs that are like just the way it's very much an emo song. I mean, it's like Dashboard.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I'm very grateful for that. Now thinking back on it, it was like when those 2 or 3 years that I played on the praise and worship team, like that was my first emo band, and it taught me a lot, and it taught me how to identify with music and how to do dynamics to get bigger and to get smaller and all the layering that you do. So I'm sure you have a lot of that as well.
Yep.
So.
I owe a lot of, I guess, my dynamic range and, going up and down in intensity and using effects and things like that and gain and things like that in different stages. And you got to be big at this part, but then you got to tame it back and then you bring it back. So all of that I got from worship music. Actually, that's now that you mention it, you're right. That's a huge part. That's a huge influence on my playing and how I choose to like dial in my tone and use effects and things like that. Worship music. That's where it really like roots back.
I remember the guy who played guitar before, he kind of was helping me and stuff, and he taught me how to do a volume swell, which is like you strum the chord, but your volume's turned all the way down. And then you turn it up so that
fade it in.
It's just like a pad. Instead of a guitar, it sounds like a pad. And I was like, holy crap. Like
Yep, for sure. Yep. There's tricks. There's common like tricks that you see all the time in worship music. Yeah, you got to have a volume pedal. You got to swell it in. You got to have your delay and reverb on. Long trails so that it just sounds like a chorus of angels in the background and just the whole like drone note or like an open string, find an open string and play another melody on another string at the same time. Yeah, that's worship music, classic. Actually, a couple of my we'll get to my influences, I guess, a little bit later, but a couple key worship guitarists I was actually, as I was thinking about it this week, they have a way bigger influence on me than I guess I would have even thought. Daniel Carson, it's Chris Tomlin's guitarist. He does he plays for some other people too, but he is a super big influence on me that I didn't even really realize until years into it that this guy's a huge influence on me. A couple other lead guitarists for a couple other popular like modern worship artists like Christian Stanfill, his lead guitarist is really good. Couple others, Nigel Hendroff from Hillsong. There's a couple like key ones that are commonly known in Stu G from Delirious. There's a lot of common, well-known people in the industry that are really, really good guitarists and really good at what they do. So
this is what we're talking about here too, is an element that I'm hoping to see in our music going forward is this piece that we're talking about that is in worship music, which is, it's going to sound cringy to so many people listening to this, because obviously Monsters in the Mirror is not going to write worship songs, but like these things that we're talking about, like volume swells and using delay and these effects and these reverby things and really layering things, like that's something that I hope to see us get into with our, maybe when we start working on your songs, we can start playing with that kind of stuff more. Instead of shaping a song around a cool riff, which I like doing that too. But what if we shaped an entire section of a song around layering that all works together? Or what if we found a cool, a delay thing that you can do on a guitar that's like, that just causes something. You're like, oh, this is cool. And then we create from there. So it's more layering rather than like, well, hey, this is a cool thing. Let's go with it.
Yep. Yeah, that's something. So you don't see, I guess in some of the modern prog metal, you see that, but yeah, in like the emo, metalcore, things like that, you don't see, especially the metalcore that like we grew up listening to in like the 2000s. That wasn't really there. It was like straight two distorted guitars with a basic riff, no effects, like punk rock style, but it was more technical. But that's all it really was, and that's still great, and I love that. But I like being a little more expressive with my, I guess, tone effects.
Yeah.
So, and I get that from worship music. And then there's the other side. So let me go back to Guitar Hero and All That Remains. So that was where it really spiked my interest into like heavier and more technical music. And at the same time, I eased into it. So I got into like Chevelle and Breaking Benjamin and things like that heavier, harder rock. And again, going to church, had a few friends that played guitar that sort of pulled me along in that direction. That was some stuff that they really liked, in addition to like worship music. So I got all of that at the same time early in my guitar playing career. Right. And then the drummer on a worship team, I'm still friends with him. His name's Jake. He got me into metal. So I brought, actually, that was one of the first questions I asked him, like, do you like All That Remains? Like, do you have this album that the song's on, that 6 is on? He's like, yeah, for sure. Here it is. And so he gave me that and their other stuff. And he got me into like As I Lay Dying, Trivium. That's one of my favorite bands. Killswitch Engage, all that like 2000s metalcore. I just ate it up. That's like all I listened to. And then some of the more like hardcore and scene style like breakdown bands too. He liked all that stuff. So I just ate all that up. Under Oath was in there too. I know that's a common band that all of us in Monsters love that band. And they're only Chasing Safety. It was huge for me. As far as just not necessarily even just guitar playing, but just music in general. Like what could modern rock sound like? That's a little more aggressive, but it's kind of radio friendly at the same time. That's a weird album. That's amazing.
They do a good bit of that layering thing we were just talking about too. Especially They're Only Chasing Safety. It was kind of like when you listen to it, that one and the next one, Define the Great Line, like you can't listen to it and go, oh yeah, there's a very clear guitar riff there. You kind of have to listen to it multiple times and digest it to start to hear all the intricacies and like that.
Really interesting chord phrasings and chord structures. They're really known for that. Just weird stuff that doesn't really make musical sense, but if you put your fingers in a certain spot on the guitar, it's like, wow, yeah, that is really cool.
Did you, since your primary experience of everything was through church and everything, did you have any issues with like when you wanted to start listening to secular bands? Did you have any pushback from like your parents or from your church community where it's like, hey, you can't listen to that non-Christian stuff?
Not really. My parents were, by the time I started to listen to the heavier stuff, the secular stuff, I was like, 16 years old. So they were a little cautious, but I didn't really get much pushback. Nice. And I had friends at the time that also were, into that stuff. So I was just, it was part of my life. Actually back up. I don't want to make sure I don't want to miss this. So I had a neighborhood friend that I grew up with, that I grew up playing with. Him and his sister were into My Chemical Romance. This is back in like 2004 when Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge first came out. And I remember hearing that for the first time. It was just like, dang, this is awesome. Right. And then the Black Parade come out, and that blew my mind too. So that was about the same time I was into like the Breaking Benjamin, radio rock type of stuff. So My Chemical Romance is actually one of my favorite bands and one of my biggest influences. I've got the like heavier metal stuff, and then I've got the worship stuff, and then I've got like the emo punk stuff coming right up the middle. All three of those makes up sort of Joe Blackburn as a musician, or at least as a guitarist.
I love it. I think I mentioned this in my episode, but like for me, I was limited with the secular stuff. So it was like, I felt late to the game in a lot of things. Like my friends were.
I was too. I was too. I really was. I didn't really hit that till I was like 16. So 16, 17.
But I think I even went kind of beyond that. It wasn't until I was like 18, 19 and moved out that I started to kind of branch a little bit. Like I remember my friends making Anchorman quotes, like joking about that at school. And I had no idea. I was like, that sounds like a hilarious movie. I'm not allowed to watch it. And so I was just thinking about that when you're talking about Trivium and As I Lay Dying. So like of the bands you listed, I was only allowed to listen to As I Lay Dying because they were a Christian band. And then ironically, he hired a hitman to kill his wife later on.
Yeah, interesting turn of events later on.
And not that means he's not a Christian or anything. It's just very funny how like, especially with us, we grew up in that era where it was labels. You had Christian rock, and you and I probably used to read the same magazines where like they would ask As I Lay Dying and Emery and Haste the Day, are you a Christian band? And then they would try to have to, well, we're Christians in a band.
We're Christians in a band.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. Like later, see, it was like later, I had my Christian versions of everything. Instead of listening to Slipknot, I listened to Demon Hunter. And instead of listening to whatever, I listened to As I Lay Dying and all these different things. And then it was later that I discovered like System of a Down. And there's no Christian version of System of a Down. And when I heard them, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that's funny.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. I guess I had a little bit of that, especially with like movies and other media, for sure. My parents did, or I think looking back, my parents did a really good job in like sheltering and shepherding, I guess, my heart and my mind while I was still living in their house. But there was still enough freedom that I saw what was out there. And the thing that I really dove into that really piqued my interest was music, heavy music. But yeah, my parents weren't a fan. My parents knew that I listened to like Skillet and POD and stuff like that. And they didn't like it. It's not their thing at all. Even still, they don't really get it. But that's okay. They're fine with that. I like it. And they support that, that I like it. So
really cool.
Yeah. So then I started diving into in high school the heavier, more technical stuff, but I never really had much of an outlet for it because I was playing guitar at church every week, but I was just playing rock and metal at home. So I was trying to shred and get all technical, but I couldn't really use that anywhere. And that's the way it stayed for a long time. Really until a few months ago.
Is there a reason for that? Like, did you ever try to pursue a band or something?
Yeah. So a couple friends that that came and went throughout the years. We had a couple projects that we tried to start and nothing ever happened. We never recorded anything. We never even had full bands most of the time. It was just like maybe a guitar player and a bassist or a guitar player and a singer. And nothing ever worked out. And I was, pursuing, a college degree at the time in business. And then I got married and then my career took off and I was focused on that. I bought a house, started having kids. There was always some major life event that I was focused on. And I just didn't have time or the energy to devote to, a band, putting out original music. And every sort of little project or thing that I got involved in, I was sort of having to be the driving force behind it. And I realized that I can play guitar and I can write guitar parts, but I can't put together whole songs. And I can't seem to find people who want to actually do this, but still have a good like life balance. Like it's either all about the band or they're not really interested in being in a band at all when it really comes down to it. So I never found the right group of people or the right timing or whatever. And it was discouraging, but I was still happy to, keep up my skills at home. But it wasn't until, a few months ago, last fall, that I really found the right group of people. And I'm really glad that I did. It's playing metal and rock. I guess I'm glad that I have kept my chops up all these years because now I have a spot to use it.
Yeah, because I've been through that and I got discouraged and then just stopped. Like, I don't know why. It's something I'm working on. And I think I'm getting better at it now, but like I've always played an instrument as a means to an end, where it's like when I started playing guitar, I started playing through all of Reliant K's album front to back, like all of them, because I would dream at night about being on stage performing with them or performing in a band just like them. And so it was all about being in a band, and I was like unhealthily obsessed about it. It was going to be my career. And thank goodness I matured because I realized you can't be a good father or a husband.
Yeah, can't support a family off the punk band. Sorry, It's not going to work.
But it was I don't know, it was even the same thing with this band and with my past with it and everything. It's like after I stopped playing in Paint the Sky Black, I'd stopped playing guitar. And then with this band, it was like, well, we need a bass player. So I picked that up, but I haven't really played electric guitar at all, even though I just said not long ago, that was my main thing. And now if I pick up the electric guitar, it's so foreign in my hands compared to a bass guitar or an acoustic guitar. I'm way more savvy on acoustic now, where I just never thought I'd be in this spot. I always thought electric guitar is my thing. So it's funny. Like if I were you and I would have been and tried to get it together that many times, I probably would have just been like, screw it.
Yeah. To be honest, I guess the last year before I picked metal guitar back up, it was kind of headed there. I hadn't I guess, thrown in the towel or anything. And I still have, I have a 7-string guitar. I've got a couple guitars here tuned down to drop C, and they were always there. And I still would pick them up and play through, from time to time. I went through like an Instagram metal cover songs phase a few years ago. I think during like the height of COVID, I was like, all right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to set up a desk and audio interface and get plugins rolling and actually move, into the 21st century and learn to record myself and do all that stuff. So I did that over COVID. And then I started a little like guitar cover channel because of it. And I learned a lot. I got noticeably better as a guitarist, learning all those songs and doing it at a pretty fast pace. And I think I get like 2 songs a week. So it kept me busy, but it got boring after a while. And so I stopped. And that's when I sort of put it down for a while and started doing the acoustic stuff with my friend, sort of like hits from 60s till today style, acoustic style covers, which is a lot of fun. And it was new territory for me. But I kind of was thinking that metal and heavier music was going to wind down for me, at least for an extended period of time before I met this guy, Aaron Collins, at a kid's birthday party.
It's so funny too, because it's like as we turn 33 and we're married and we have kids, and it's like, well, I guess I got to grow up. No more streaming music.
That's right. And here we are. We are dad metal, whether we like it or not.
Oh, I know. I hate that too. Sometimes
you just gotta own it.
Sometimes the guys mention it, like Nick or Vince will mention like, oh man, we're old now. And I'm like, don't say that. Like, I'm only 33 and I'm going to stay. I got Peter Pan syndrome, dude. Like, I don't want to grow. All right.
I mean, me neither. And hey, you know what? I tell people this regularly. Playing this type of music keeps me young.
Yeah.
It totally does. It totally does. It does. It keeps you on edge. You got to keep your punk edge, man.
That's what it is. Edge is the right word. Like you keep your. I mean, otherwise we're just going to listen to comfortable music. It's just going to be.
You got to stay just a little bit angry.
Just a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It's healthy. It's healthy, and that's what I guess we could talk about later sometime too. It's music is an outlet. It's a creative outlet. So it's gives me joy, obviously, but it's a creative outlet. It's an outlet for anger. It's an outlet for frustration. Right. It's an outlet for sadness and all those other negative emotions. And it's not that I don't even necessarily have to be like listening to or playing angry music, but just the act of picking up a guitar and working through something or learning something just releases something in me. And that's why I will never ever give up guitar. As long as I can physically play it, I'm never putting it down because it is at this point, it's a part of me. And I'm never letting it go.
Yeah.
and just like you said, you jumped around a little bit between instruments. I've pretty much always been electric guitar. So I have an acoustic guitar. It never really clicked as well for me. I have a bass. I'm actually okay at bass. But that was a later thing. I've always been full steam ahead, focused on electric guitar. So I'm not a jack of all trades. I sort of pigeonhole myself a little bit, but that's okay. Because I'm all in on electric guitar, on lead guitar.
Oh yeah, because you're a master of electric guitar. I mean, I know you would say that you're not, but like the jack of all trades is good, but the jack of all trades, but master of none. And when you specialize like you did, like you're very good at what you do. So we're very lucky to have you. It's going to be cool.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I'm just happy to be a part of it. So and actually in that time, those few months that I took to decide whether I was going to try out for Monsters, I knew. So based on what I heard and based on the podcast, and Vince sort of expressed, look, I'm not really much of a lead guitarist, more of a rhythm guitarist and songwriter. And he is exceptionally good on the piano. I knew that I could fit right in this band because I focus on lead guitar. And from your guys' music, I could hear, there's some great riffs, there's some great songs, but there's not a lot of texture and melody, or at least expressive lead guitar playing. And that's exactly what I love and what I bring to the table. So I knew I could fit right in there, and there was a spot for me if it worked out personality wise, and you guys were serious about one another member. So
that's cool. So that's what people can start listening for. And in the next songs that come out, Blood is Overrated will be next up that people will get to hear, and they'll be able to start to hear that Joe influence.
That's right. I already added a lead over the main parts of the song. And then Vince and I put together a really cool, we still have to finish it, but there's a really cool like I'd almost call it like Mozart-esque sort of layering at the end. It's going to be really cool.
That's awesome.
It's going to be really cool. And I'm also excited and I've already done this, but people will start to get to hear it live as we play shows this year. I've added a little seasoning onto the existing songs where I saw opportunities. So I'm excited to get those out there as well.
Yeah. We're excited also to get the lead guitar out of the track.
Yeah.
That was always we always hated that we had to do that. It's so cringy. Like, where's that other guitar coming from?
That's all right. That's all right. We'll still keep tracks with all the other good stuff going on in the background. So it's, and they're there for a reason. They're an important part of our music. So it's, but yes, live guitar number 2 is going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
April 13th is our next show, right?
April 13th is our next show. It'll be my first show. Hopefully I don't mess up. Hopefully I don't blow it.
Nope. It'll be great. Hey, is there anything else?
I think that's about it. It's a little bit about me, where I come from, where I've been, and where we're at right now. I'm looking forward to this year. Looking forward to writing some new music and playing some shows and releasing some music.
That's awesome. I know.
How about you?
I'm super excited. I'm excited to be doing a podcast right now. Again, I mentioned it in the text earlier, but I love doing this. I thrive on working with other people. Like if I have to do something and make it happen by myself, then I tend to struggle because I find something else that's brighter. I see a brighter light to chase. So it'd be, I don't know, if you like doing this, and if everybody wants to start doing this kind of thing more, then I'd like to start doing more podcasts, because I feel like I'm getting better at it as far as the quality goes. So just more talk, even if it's just to like document how things are going with the band, and then keep people updated, and then we can, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be a fan. I'd be a fan for sure. I think this is fun. This is my first time. So I'm probably not very good at it yet, but I think this is cool. And one more thing, I'll back up. So what you said about you work better. You feel like you're at your best when you're working with other people. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. And actually that is all too real, even with guitar playing. So I realized throughout my years of working with people that I'm actually not very good at coming up with songs or ideas from scratch. I work best when somebody has a basic idea and then I'm able to expand on it or add things to it. So that is one thing. And Vince is good at coming up with a good idea. Mm-hmm. and the basis for an idea. I almost kind of compare it to a cake. So Vince is good at baking a cake and putting together a cake. I'm good at decorating a cake.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to work well together. It's going to be a really good pairing. And a lot of the, I think the best guitarists or guitar music that I enjoy and listen to and that have stood the test of time for me has come from 2 guitarists: Avenged Sevenfold, Zachy V and Sinister Gates, Trivium, Corey and Matt. Periphery, they have 3 guitarists. Two guitar matches, you got 2 different minds coming together that are both very good at their instruments on their own, but they're different together. That's where the magic happens. Yeah, right. And for us all this time, it's been one guitarist writing 2 guitar parts, so it's not the same because you don't have 2 different brains approaching it. So this will be really cool. That's right. I'm excited for let the symphony begin. Yeah, right. Let's do this sometime, man. This is we should do some more podcasts. It's be a lot of fun, and it's just good. And one thing also I've learned is if you want anything to happen, you want anything cool to happen, you got to put yourself out there. And that's one thing that I guess I just wasn't very good at, or I didn't do very much of until I guess over the past couple of years. And it pays off. If you want things to happen, you got to put yourself out there and show what you have to offer the world and other people that may be looking for something similar to you. Right. So.